everybody. 2 days ago, I recorded a couple of midweek videos on the theme of joy, on the theme of being lighthearted and not taking ourselves too seriously during these very difficult days. And I was going to release those, and then as I was getting ready to publish one of them, I began to read online about the George Floyd killing down in Minneapolis, and with all of that going on, I just felt like it would be the wrong tone to release these videos on joy, with especially being in Minnesota and with so many people that are hurting and angry and so frustrated by what happened on Monday night. I thought I'd just take a few minutes today just to think about how I'm processing and praying about this situation. And the way I've been doing that is through this lens of the text, the context, and the subtext. And maybe this will be helpful for some of you as you think about and pray about all that's going on. When you think about the situation, the text that we're all dealing with is this 10-minute video that I'm sure many of us watch, which is just really hard to watch, where police officers have apprehended Mr. Floyd and they have the one officer has his knee on his neck, with Mr. Floyd crying out for help and saying that they're killing him and he can't breathe. It's just really, really hard to watch. And the brutality of it is unthinkable. And, frankly, it just, based on that evidence alone, it really appears that these police officers murdered him. And we should be crying out for justice. And so just the raw text alone, we all see this injustice and this evil that has been committed. But then when you think about the context, there's a whole lot more context, and this gets a little bit stickier, a little bit more challenging. You have the context of racism, and you have Minneapolis, where there's been a number of racial incidents. And so you have the context of the fact that this was an African American man who had committed no violent crime, being apprehended in a very serious way by Caucasian police officers. And so that context of racial division, and of course you have a community in Minneapolis that is hurting and angry. I have a dear brother that is not too far from there, who's a pastor that I love deeply. And so you have all this other context. But the thing that I've been thinking even more about, because the text is what we've all seen, the context is all the stuff that we're wrestling with, but the subtext is this: why am I making a video about this? And I'll tell you a couple of reasons. One reason I'm shooting a video is because I'm a pastor, and when anything is inflamed at this level and there's so much anger and hurt and sorrow, it's a good place for the church to speak. So as a pastor, I feel, I guess, a need to say, look, we're against racism, and this killing seems to be a murder. I mean, it's pretty clear. But here's the other subtext. I want to say something because I want you to think I'm a good person. Isn't that a lot of what we do on social media? We put out our comments because we want to say, well, I'm a good person, not like those evil people. See, I'm distancing myself from them because I'm good and they're not. Isn't that what we do a lot of times in these situations? In a lot of ways, we're saying, this is unjust, but we're also saying, but I'm good and I'm just. I was thinking about this. There's a story in 2 Samuel. If you know the story, King David had an affair with Bathsheba. He basically took her as his own, even though she was married. And then after he took her, she was pregnant. And her husband, Uzziah, who was a faithful soldier, David sent out to war, and then he told the troops to withdraw so that Uzziah was killed. So basically, David committed adultery, and then he murdered the woman's husband. Well, the prophet Nathan came to David, and he told David a story. And he told him a parable about a rich man who stole and sheep from a poorer man. And the whole story was all about injustice. And David was infuriated by the story, and he says, he demanded that justice would be done. And he was angry, and he cried out for justice. And then Nathan said, David, you are the man. See, I want to say, look, I'm not a racist. I don't really feel that I am. I'm a good person. I want you to like me. I want to associate with good people. And he says, and I'm not like one of those evildoers. And the Holy Spirit says, like, really, Tristan, you think you're good? Well, you're not really fooling anybody. You're definitely not fooling the Lord of the universe who knows your heart. When I look at my own heart, I want to say to God and to others, see, I'm decent. I'm a good person. I'm not like one of those evil people. And I cry out for justice as we should cry out for justice. But then God says to my heart, really? You think you are that good? Like, Tristan, what about your own anger? What about your own contempt for other people? It may not be racism, but do you really treat everyone fairly? What about your own every lustful thought that you've had in your life? What about your anger and your selfishness? You've lived a pretty safe and easy life. You haven't been pushed to the point where you might act in evil and vile ways. And I'm undone. I'm undone. I think the hope of the world is for you and I to really look at our own hearts. And God really only begins to work when we're really repentant of our sin. And it doesn't help for me to say, well, I'm better than those people. Because am I? I'm not justifying anything that's been done. The text is clear. Evil was committed. The context is murky and difficult. There are societal things going on, but the subtext to me is the clearest. I am a sinner. And I think as the people of God, we should be broken when we see injustice. We should be sorrowful. We should call out for justice. And we should always look at our heart first, and where we need the redemption of God. Because no man is good, but God alone. I hope that we're a repentant people. I hope we don't use societal issues to avoid the own evil that's in our own hearts. Because that won't help us and it won't help the world. The world's changed from one heart at a time. May the Lord be with you, encourage you. We need to be praying in these days for one another, for justice, for God's mercy. God bless you.